I found an interesting piece of information the other day, and it's this, that every 8 seconds, you need to change your YouTube video in order for the person who's watching it to find it engaging. In other words, I would need to change my camera angle, or I would need to interject some B-roll or a zoom effect. Whatever it is, the point is that people have about 8 seconds worth of an attention span before they lose interest. This information was disturbing to me because it showed me that most people are not able to concentrate. And concentration is one of the most important things on your spiritual path to finding God. Because if you cannot concentrate, how are you ever going to hold your attention long enough on the very thing that you need to focus on in order to understand what that thing is? We can measure our success by our ability to concentrate, our ability to focus on either the person or the task at hand. That is our level of efficacy in whatever it is that we're doing. And concentration is no different when you apply it to your spiritual practices. So in this video, I think it's important that we talk about the benefits of honing in on the skill of concentration and how you can actually strengthen this within yourself. But before I begin, if at any point you find that this information is helpful, then please like and subscribe so more people have access to this video. The headless chicken. We've all heard the expression, I feel like I'm running around like a chicken with its head cut off. Well, that's really no different than how it feels when we're unable to concentrate on something. Our mind is completely scattered. The way that we become distracted is through our 5 senses. Once something triggers us and we feel this pull with our awareness to now focus on the thing that we're feeling, tasting, touching, smelling, seeing, then we start having thoughts about that thing. Let's use the example of hunger. If I start to feel some pain in my stomach and I realize, oh, I'm so hungry, then I start thinking about food and I start thinking about the things that I want to eat. What happens next is that those thoughts then trigger more thoughts from the past that allow me to now think of even more things that I've eaten in the past that were delicious. Now I am being dragged down this road that is pulling me away from my concentration. The first way that people concentrate is by trying to get away from the things that are distracting them, right? So they're trying to move away from all of the distractions and use that to concentrate. And the second way, which is more positive, is that they're actually able to focus on whatever it is that they want. We can quickly begin to realize how detrimental this lack of concentration can be to our spiritual growth. Because if we're meditating and we're focusing on God, or we're focusing on some aspect of God, and we're unable to keep our attention there, and instead we're thinking about what we want to eat for lunch, we're going to have a really hard time going deep into that meditation and really getting the benefits out of it. Concentration is actually the first step before we have this ability to deeply meditate. That's why so many Eastern practices around yoga and even Zen Buddhism, they all help you focus on concentration first. Concentration building practices. There are so many different spiritual practices and techniques out there that it can be really overwhelming. So what I like to do is keep things very simple. And the most important thing to keep in mind whenever you're doing any spiritual practice is that you maintain some consistency with it. Because only then, like anything else, do you begin to see any benefits. Because it's through our practice, through our ability to get better at something, that we actually reap the rewards of that thing. When you begin to practice some of these very simple techniques, they're very tedious in the beginning and they're not super fun. But I promise you, they will help this skill, this ability to concentrate. And like I said, the more that you strengthen that ability, the more success you'll have in all endeavors in your life. So be gentle on yourself, find a little bit of amusement, have a little self-compassion, and know that in time you will get better at the thing that you're practicing. That said, let's jump into the first technique. The first one is to watch your breath. There are numerous ways that you can go about doing this. Some people will chant different words on the inhale and the exhale. You can even just count. On the inhale, you can count 1 and then 2, and then again 1 and then exhale 2. It doesn't really matter exactly how you go about doing this, but it is important that you're able to find something that helps you concentrate on your inhale and your exhale and only that and nothing else. The minute that you think a thought and it doesn't have anything to do with your breathing, then bring the attention back. And it's just this practice, this constant practice of bringing your awareness back to what it is that you're trying to focus on. You can focus on your breath at any point during the day. Maybe if you're sitting and waiting for the bus or you're on the subway, you can just sit there. You don't have to be in a deep trance meditative state. And you can, again, count your breath, watch your breath, and just sit there over and over and over again and just keep focusing on your breath, which is why this tool is so wonderful, because you don't have to be in meditation to do it. Another way that you can build your ability to concentrate is to become the witness, is to start to take note of everything that is happening, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a thought that surfaces, a feeling that comes up, something that somebody says. It's literally this act of paying attention. The more you pay attention to all of the things that are happening, whether it's within you or without you, that is going to strengthen your ability to concentrate. When you listen, what do you hear? I've noticed that one of the hardest things for people to do is to actually listen. How many times do we listen to somebody and then all of a sudden we start thinking about something else and we're just responding with a, oh, that's interesting. We've all done that. When you're listening to someone, many things begin to happen. We either start to have an internal dialogue of what it is that we're going to say next, which also means that we're not listening to the person who's talking, or we're just so ready to interrupt them that we just jump in and start talking, or we start thinking about something that's really interesting, much more interesting than what the person is saying, so we completely ignore what the person's talking about. It's usually one of those three things that happens. But have you ever tried to actually listen to somebody? I mean, really listen without doing any of those three things. It's actually really fascinating when you do that, because a lot of things happen. You might notice that the person you're talking to just keeps talking. On and on and on they go without even ever asking you any questions. So that's an interesting thing to notice. What also might happen is that the other person who's doing the talking might begin to notice that you've given them so much space and freedom to talk without interrupting them that it's almost strange, because most people will interrupt somebody who keeps talking and talking and talking. It's a very interesting thing to practice, and it's another way that we can build our concentration, because the more we build our capacity to listen, even when we're in a deep, deep meditation, when we really deeply listen, it's an incredible thing. Sometimes in meditation, what I like to do is just listen to that sound of silence. You can start to hear like a humming sound. I highly recommend this practice as a practice of building your concentration, because our relationships are so incredibly important. And the more that you become a better listener, the more that your relationships are going to become strengthened, because everyone loves a good listener. Everyone loves someone who's present with them. It's so rare that we find someone who's able to do that. When we're really with one another, there's nothing more beautiful than that. That is a real act of love. It's a real act of giving of yourself, because it's not like you're not there with that person anyway. You might as well give that of yourself. I love you all so much. I hope that this week you can practice some of these techniques around concentration. Focus on your breath during meditation, focus on being the witness, and focus on listening. Really practice the art of listening. Until next time, remember to let go. Let go of trying to be anything other than the truth of what you are.